Well, team, lovely in lilac.
Thanks, Norm.
Got my navy blue Walmart on.
And you look very handsome.
So, if you want to retire early, how would you bridge the retirement gap from being young retired until you get your pension, whether it's a works pension or the old age pension from your government?
And the strange thing is, we never thought that we would ever be able to retire, let alone retire early, did we?
We thought we were going to be hamsters working the rest of our lives
Yeah.
because we were not wealthy people,
No.
didn't have tons of savings. Psychologically, we didn't have a company pension. And so that weighed heavily on us, thinking that we could never retire. But we did.
And we've never looked back, have we?
No. So how do you bridge that retirement gap? If you're in your mid 50s at the moment and you're thinking, I'd like to retire maybe when I'm 58 or 60, these ages are too young for government benefits in most countries. So where can that money come from, Teen?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to look and take control and possibly reduce your expenses.
That's one of our favorite things.
Yeah.
Do a budget.
Yeah.
Find out how much you're currently spending. Are you spending all your salary, or are you spending more than your salary, which a lot of people do. We used to do that before we emigrated to Canada when we were in England. We lived beyond our means.
We did. And this is something that is so important to look at to see just how much money you are actually going to need if you want to retire early. So there are various things you can do, hey Norm. And one of them, which is what we did, is, and possibly a lot of other people would do, is to sell your house.
Oh my God, Tin, you can't say that. That's the holy grail.
And so many people feel they can't sell a house because of memories, because of the things that have happened in the past. But if you want to go forward for your future, this is a very important thing you need to decide.
So we're just throwing ideas out.
Yeah.
We're not telling you to sell your house.
No.
We are showing you solutions to the problem of bridging the retirement gap, of retiring early before pensions kick in, or CPP, or Social Security in the US. We've said in other videos that we're all getting older, and we're being targeted by all this internet availability for scams. And so one of the things that we do is we protect our bank account. We do online banking, but before we log on, we open up NordVPN, which is a great safety net. And so we open NordVPN and then do our online banking. And that way it just scrambles all of our data information so there's nobody can get in between us and the bank. And I think it's more and more important that you do protect yourself. And NordVPN is a great software that we can download on our phones, our tablets, and our laptop. And we've had NordVPN for a couple of years now, and it's been really good. There's also a side feature to NordVPN, one of the benefits, apart from security.
And that is, of course, that we can watch our favorite TV shows if we, say, happen to be in Portugal, because we can go on through the VPN and we can access our TV shows back in Canada.
So all you have to do on NordVPN, it gives you options of which country you want to route your signal through. So do you want to appear that you're still in Canada, even though you're in Portugal? And that's what we do. So we take our Fire Stick and we have NordVPN on the Fire Stick. It's available in the App Store for the Fire Stick. And we get to watch
our subscription to Prime TV, and it's great. And the other benefit is
that it keeps us safe when we're in public places like airports and
Yeah.
hotels and things like that. We feel a lot safer, don't we?
we see
using-
hundreds of
Yeah.
people off cruise ships. The first thing they want is Wi-Fi, and you see them in the cruise ship terminals. It's public. We won't log on without using NordVPN because we want to be safe. And those free Wi-Fis can be compromised by bad actors. So anyway, we'd like to thank NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And we have a coupon code that if you click, you will get a great discount. And we'll put a link in the description of the video so you can do that. But you will have seen our link on screen as we've been talking.
We did sell our house because psychologically we got married early. You know, Tina was 18, I was 20. And we had our first house when we were 21, when I was 21.
We did.
And had a mortgage ever since. And we knew we would struggle for savings raising a young family. So we both agreed all those years ago that we would sell the house to fund our retirement. And that would allow us to do all the fun things that we didn't do as 18 and 20-year-olds when we were working and before our family came along. We couldn't afford to travel.
No, and that was one of the biggest things we wanted to do was as we retired, we wanted to travel. So we realized that in selling our house and investing the money, that would enable us to start renting and be able to travel and do a lot of the things we wanted to do in our early retirement.
So this theory of selling a house, what it does is you lose the carrying cost of a home, whether you have a mortgage on it still or whether it's mortgage free. We sat down and did a budget and we found out, this is going back 11 years, that our carrying costs of the house with the insurance, the property tax, the hydro, electricity, heating oil, before we even got to maintenance, we also had a line of credit that was funding repairs and improvements to it. We were only about $100 short of what rent was.
And at the time, one of the things that we looked at as a huge advantage was that we actually gained extras. Like we gained underground parking and a swimming pool, things that we thought would make our retirement a lot more enjoyable.
Right.
And another thing too, Norm, is that people don't realize when they actually give up work, they lose all the expenses associated with when you have to be at work.
Yeah, all
Like,
those Tim
yeah,
Hortons
yeah.
first thing in the morning at the drive-through.
All the doubles,
Oh, yeah.
all the gas, all the clothes you have to buy. When everybody wants to go out for lunch, you've got to go too.
And also
yeah.
work people, people on tools. You have
Yeah.
to keep buying and renewing your tools. Working can be quite expensive personally.
Yeah.
I was a sales rep, so I always had to be relatively well dressed. In the early days, it always used to be a suit, collar and tie. Coming to Canada, it's more casual, but it was always a sports jacket, maybe a golf shirt in summertime. But there were expenses. Tina was a sales rep too, and she had to have nice work clothes.
Yeah, so basically we had double everything, didn't we? We had two cars, so everything associated with it. We had two lots of insurance when tires needed replacing. It was two lots of everything. So that is also something that you can look at when you come into retirement is how about possibly cutting your expenses by going down to one car? Ooh, a lot of people, they don't like that, eh, Norm?
Well, we did it.
We did.
And
Yeah.
once again, you're losing the carrying costs of one vehicle, the maintenance, the annual oil changes and tire replacements, which are all getting quite expensive. But probably one of the biggest expenses is car insurance.
And I think, too, Norm, we should say that life takes on a different chapter when you're retired. You actually find out that possibly a lot of the places you actually go to, you both go together. So you, in our first years, when we had the two cars before we went down to one, we realized that one car was really sitting there doing nothing, just costing us money, wasn't it?
Very much so, because once again, when you lose the house, those trips to Home Depot or Lowe's or Rona,
Oh yeah. We were at all of them regularly, weren't we, Norm?
well, Norm
Yeah,
was.
well, Norm was.
Yeah, and we used to live about 25 minutes away from the nearest Home Depot. So I would go there to get stuff that we needed to fix stuff around the house. Well, when you sell the house, you don't have to go to Home Depot, because if you're renting, the person who owns the property does the maintenance. So we retired fully at 58 and 60. Tina was 58, I was 60. And I had built up kind of a side hustle. I think our regular viewers know I do stock photography and stock video, and I'd been doing that for, where is it now, 15 years.
Yeah,
And
think
it,
so.
and
Yeah.
it gave us a really good undercurrent of income. So what we decided to do when we sold the house and we were looking to rent, we came to a cheaper town, a lower cost city. We were living in a capital city before in Canada. So we came to this smaller town, and believe it or not, everything seemed a lot less expensive. Tina's hair appointments were a fraction of what they were in Ottawa.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was totally surprised at, that you could go and get your hair and highlights done for like a third of the cost of what I was paying in Ottawa. So that was just one of the ways that we saved money, wasn't it?
It really was.
Everything seemed cheaper.
Plus, we came into the apartment, so other than rent, which we have to pay every month, there was no other expenses other than the small running costs of a small car. So limited amount of gas. All our electricity is included in the rent. And so we've compartmentalized, and we know exactly what our housing costs are going to be every month. There are no surprises, no trips to Home Depot, and no contractors coming that we're paying to redo a roof or garage doors or windows or our laneway. And we did all of those in the house.
I think another thing too, Norm, is that yes, we moved to a lower cost town, and when we were looking at our budget and finances, how we were going to be able to afford this, we had the income coming from your side hustle,
Yeah.
right? But another thing that we looked into was, because Norm was self-employed,
Yeah, photographer.
what happened was, because we moved 6 hours away from where we lived, that put a situation that I could no longer continue working. So I actually had to give my job up. But the added plus to that was that I got to claim unemployment benefit.
Yeah, I forced Tina into unemployment.
And
I was having difficulty getting Tina to retire in Ottawa because our life was going on as usual in the same house. We'd been in the house for 17 or 18 years. And so there wasn't that defining moment of retirement. But when we decided to come to a less expensive town, our son was living here as well, which gave us the focal point to come. We had that natural break. We're retired.
Yeah.
And so because I had the photography business of stock photography, and it had evolved into travel photography. So we wanted to be near a bigger airport than Ottawa that would give us more destinations without having to keep having layovers and coming into Toronto from Ottawa on a flight. So yes, Tina went to the unemployment and she qualified for a year of unemployment.
So what we found was with Norm's money and my unemployment, those two together took care of bridging that gap, I guess.
And I do want to say this. That was the only time in our 50 years of marriage that
Yeah.
we've claimed any form of unemployment. We have been
That is
100% employed the whole time. So what side hustles can you do? So if you're below the retirement age in your country, not everybody can do the photography and it takes a long time to build it up. But there's lots of things you could do, such as a part-time job, become underemployed,
Yeah.
lose the stressful job, and pick up a part-time job that's more fun. There's things like cut people's grass, go get a ride on a lawnmower and offer a lawn cutting service.
There are lots of things that you can do. But if you don't fancy any of those, another thing you can do is you can use your RRSPs or your savings account, because there is nothing wrong with drawing from money that you have saved up to allow you to retire early. Because we've talked about this in other videos. Time is running out for everybody and you can't buy that back.
No.
So we're saying find a way, find that money from somewhere so it will allow you to be able to retire.
So that's why we sold the house. That gave us a large lump sum of money and we invested that. And so the investment, even though we don't use the money, we keep it reinvested. That was enough to pay the rent. That was enough to give us some income as well, which we didn't need, luckily for us. So that was one of the points of selling a house, is it converts your asset into cash. You can invest it, get 5% quite easily on your money in this day and age, whether it's with a managed ETF based on the S&P 500 or something like that.
I think another thing too, Norm, that we have talked about this and stressed this over and over is go into retirement being debt free.
The 100% rule.
You
really.
just have no idea how much stress is there when you don't have debt free.
And there's no such thing as good debt.
No.
Oh, I want to keep this debt because it's tax deductible.
No.
It's pointless.
The way to handle moving into early retirement from the get-go is to be debt free. So you have to find a way to incorporate all that together. And that's what we did. And I think for us, as Norm said, selling the house, moving, cutting the ties from the job where I worked there at the time, just made the whole thing exciting, didn't it?
It is.
We were moving into the new chapter of our life, and what we were doing was we were removing ourselves and detaching ourselves from home ownership that we'd been in like as long as we could remember. We'd had a house and all the expenses with it.
But one of the things in retirement that we don't do is we don't come up with preconceived ideas of what things are until we actually find out what they are. We both had parents, or my father, if he could think of something, then it was true, whether it was or not. And
yeah,
so
he was a little headstrong on that, eh?
we get comments from people all the time about selling the house. Rent is too expensive. Well, until you actually do the work, you don't know. It's a knee-jerk reaction. So to give you an idea, in this day and age, If you wanted to come into the apartment building that we have with a similar apartment, 2-bedroom, in-suite laundry, we have swimming pool, gymnasium. It's just a good setup, indoor parking. That would cost you around 2,500 Canadian dollars. You would pay about another 100 a month in electricity because now you have to pay extra. We were grandfathered in with our rent. So you're looking at about 2,600. Our son is renting a house that's like 3,500 square feet, 4-bedroom. I think there's 5 bathrooms in it.
This is a lot.
It's a monster house.
Yeah.
It's like a mansion. And he is paying 3,200 Canadian for that. Since he moved into that, the houses around him that are up for rent are down to $3,000. And that's a standalone house, double garage, just beautiful. So it is possible to still get a reasonable deal. And if you've sold anywhere near $1 million house and it was mortgage free, you're going to be earning around $50,000 a year on your investments. Well, rent is only going to cost you something like 30 grand a year.
Yeah, it's a great way to find that money, isn't it?
It really is. So we went from never thinking we could retire until we sat down, did a budget, did the homework, went and looked at apartments, just didn't think about it. We actually went and looked at them, costed them out, found out how much expenses we would lose, looked at our side hustles, what we could earn, and we retired. And that's how we bridged the retirement gap when we were 58 and 60 years old.
And it's wonderful, isn't it?
It really is.
And we hope that everybody is keeping well.
And staying safe.
Until the next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.